Welcome to our team video. We hope you enjoy watching and that you learn something. It was pretty easy for us to select the topic. We each voted and selected the one that had the greatest consensus. However, this was a pretty big topic for a 5 to 7 minute video. We felt the need to narrow it down. What we chose to focus on was how articulating and communicating directions and expectations could be problematic when the group is very diverse. It's understandable that we chose this focus. We're a pretty diverse group ourselves. Maggie has a background in IO psychology, Jacque is in the Air Force, Jeff works for Union Pacific, and Lora has worked in intellectual property most of her career. Additionally, diversity has been playing a really active role in our professional lives lately. Jacque is currently located in the Middle East, Jeff has been working closely with some colleagues in Mexico, and Lora has been coordinating a symposium with some friends in various Asian countries. Articulating and communicating directions and expectations becomes more difficult in collaborations involving a lot of diversity. The lack of uniformity or a shared background makes it harder to establish a common understanding through which one can accurately communicate or comprehend directions or expectations. Now, all collaborations face this problem to some extent, but it becomes more complex when you add one or more of the following. Imagine collaborations involving individuals from different organizations, or even if they're from the same organization but different departments. Or imagine a collaboration involving people from different fields, say an engineer and a salesperson. Imagine how that collaboration would go. Or they could be from different professions but in the same field. You could have a nurse, a doctor, a physical therapist, and a pharmacist, all of which might have very different expectations or directions and might interpret the same words very differently. This is also true when you have a difference in levels of expertise and differences in levels of power. Someone in management would probably think about expectations and directions very differently than someone who isn't in management. But what we really chose to focus on was differences in cultures. As each of us has experienced lately, we're interacting with people from different cultures more and more regularly, and we thought that this was an important aspect to focus on.
As Lora just said, diversity can bring some challenges to the collaboration environment. In order to show the impact diversity can have on communication of directions and expectations, we decided to first look at the goals layer of the de Vrede and Briggs 7-layer model of collaboration. Secondly, we will talk about how it is necessary to use interpersonal skills to mitigate the diversity of the group and harness its power for collaboration. Both of these topics were key lessons from our Principles of Collaboration graduate course this semester. Dr. Briggs defines collaboration itself as a joint effort towards a group goal, and he says that without a group goal, collaboration does not exist. Therefore, goals are the base layer for the 7-layer model of collaboration. From there, a group can determine what products it needs to obtain their goal and what activities the group needs to participate in to develop those products. They can then work through what patterns of collaboration make the most sense to move the group through those activities. And from there, the group can then choose the right techniques, tools, and scripts to get them going. The planning phase starts with the goals development as just described, and the execution phase starts in reverse with the scripts and other collaboration tools that work up to building the products that achieve the common goal. When put all together, the 7-layer model shows the importance of breaking down the collaboration process piece by piece and then carefully putting it back together, allowing the group machine to run smoothly and efficiently. Diversity can add a challenging twist to development of the group goals, so now we will look at how interpersonal skills can be used to leverage the differences among team members.
This is Maggie, and as Jacque mentioned, defining the team's goals is the foundation on which the rest of the project rests. Ensuring that the group knows and understands its mission is of paramount importance. The following tips are from a lecture by Dr. Lynn Harland on interpersonal skills, which I believe can help diverse groups communicate effectively about their ideas and goals. With diversity comes varying points of view. Many of the suggestions offered by Dr. Harlan really come down to respecting the ideas and opinions of others. To communicate effectively, group members must be willing to transition between being a speaker and being a listener. It's important to keep the collaborative environment focused on problem solving and avoid any conflicts from becoming personal. Group members should avoid becoming defensive when other members question their ideas and keep the discussion from turning into a battle of wills. Dr. Harlan also suggests asking for others' ideas first before offering your own. Try to acknowledge and expand on your fellow group members' ideas whenever possible, and make sure to give credit where credit is due. Incorporating other group members' ideas into your own and weaving it all together increases a sense of ownership in the project and helps build consensus. Next, Jeff is going to provide us with some additional suggestions on how we can communicate directions and expectations within diverse groups.
This is Jeff, and I'll be covering some outside research as well as some tips and tricks on how to communicate directions and expectations effectively in a diverse group. First, I want to emphasize that failure can be devastating. We've all seen from personal experience or learned from this class that if teams or groups do not have proper expectations and clear directions, the results can be catastrophic. Relationships will be strained, employee morale will be incredibly low, and financial and operational performance can suffer. I pulled a lot of information from an article on Inc.com, which is a collaborative effort from industry consultants and authors. They recommended focusing on three things: clarity, empathy, and honesty. In all of our communication, we need to err on the side of over-communicating and not assume that anyone knows what we're talking about. You need to have empathy and realize whether it's a cross-functional team from different departments or an international team dealing with people with different cultural backgrounds. We need to put ourselves in others' shoes and understand what they're thinking and feeling. And finally, honesty. We need to be honest with ourselves, with the deadlines we set up, and with what we expect of others in our interactions. Jamie Walters, the author of Big Vision Small Business and an industry consultant, also recommends two things. This is having regular informal checkups. If we wait for formalized and scheduled meetings to check up on how a group is functioning, we miss the opportunity to stop things before they get too big, giving us the chance to check for understanding and make sure that our teams are functioning as we'd like them to. Following these simple tips and tricks will help us communicate direction and expectations as we want them to.
We found a number of studies with useful information for articulating and communicating directions and expectations in multicultural collaboration. Now, the first might seem really obvious, but it's useful to know. Dibble and Gibson determined that language is the largest barrier to these types of collaboration. On a more nuanced front, Gibson and Zellner-Brun determined that the type of metaphors and analogies you use are based on your country of origin. For example, people from countries that highly value individualism, like the United States, generally use sports analogies. However, people from countries that highly value being part of a group tend to use family-oriented or military-based analogies and metaphors. Likewise, Chu, Morris, Hung, and Memnon determined that your country of origin determines the level of autonomy you assume a group may have. For example, North Americans assume that the collaborative group is limited by social context, but Asians do not believe that the collaborative group is limited in this manner. This is important because these assumptions of the limitations, they filter and influence how people interpret directions and expectations. Now, to summarize, when you're working in a multicultural group and you're worried about articulating and communicating directions and expectations clearly, you need to be aware of language. You also need to think about the metaphors and analogies that you're using, and you need to explore assumptions of social context limitations that are being made by members of your group. Thank you for watching. We hope you learned something, and we wish you the very best in all your future collaborations.